listening to The Chris Maher Show, live on YouTube.
All right, welcome back, everybody, here to The Chris Maher Show. Tuesday night, 6 to 7. I'm tangled in my cord. A lot of stuff to talk about tonight. A lot of different things from over the weekend. Also from this past week for the Flyers, who've actually been playing pretty well, and obviously we'll get into that. A lot of content for me for tonight specifically. The show, obviously, right now until 7, and then I'm doing the watch party for tonight's game. Flyers taking on the Blues at 8 o'clock. And as of now, we're now 2-0 on nights of the show, so I don't know if that's really a good thing or a bad thing, because there's obviously, the Flyers are in the mix for the lottery at the same time. Tristan, what's up, buddy? Thanks for joining in. Dang Seltzer, how you doing, man? Again, so a lot of different stuff to talk about. Flyers versus Blues, we'll preview that. New Jersey talk also as well. The young kids showing some promise for the Flyers. There's actually been a lot of good things that have kind of come out of that, so we'll talk about that as well. And then Riley Cote stops by, former Flyer, former Phantoms coach, and now part of Nasty Knuckles as well. So Riley will be stopping by at 6:30. Again, the past weekend, unfortunately for the Flyers, they lose to Buffalo and then lose to Pittsburgh over the weekend, back-to-back situation. Unfortunately, the game against Buffalo, I was at. I went to the game with my girlfriend, and it was a fun time. We had good seats. Unfortunately, the first 3 minutes or so of the second period were an absolute gong show, and the Flyers gave up like 3 or 4 goals, and the game just kind of opened itself up from there. But outside of that, the Flyers, and then obviously ended up losing on Sunday night in Pittsburgh, 4-2. So they still sit 26 in the NHL, 6 games left. Couple of different things, update-wise and just team-wise in general. Morgan Frost with a really good showing against Buffalo. Konechny back, played 2 games, has 2 goals since coming back. He needs 1 more goal in the next 6 to get 30, and he missed a good chunk of time twice this season. Couturier ruled out. That's an interesting decision. I would have liked to see Coots play. I think for his psyche and just the overall makeup of going into the next season and kind of what the main things are. I think it would have been nice if Couturier could have played. I think it would have been good for the room as well, and obviously Coots just himself coming back. No Ristolainen, Ronnie Attard called up. In the game against Buffalo, and actually I said this to my girlfriend when we were watching the game, because Ristolainen fell at one point and went into the boards on it was either a 2-on-1 or a breakaway, and he took the pass and ended up falling into the boards, and he looked a little shaken up. I mean, he got up and he was fine. Ended up playing the rest of the game, obviously, but he was definitely shaken up. So I wonder if it was that. Torch did just say he was nicked up, so that could be the reasoning. I'm not too sure. But again, Ronnie Attard gets called up, and I'm excited to see Attard tonight. He will play tonight against the Blues. The Phantoms' magic number for the playoffs, and for Attard, who will play a couple games and end up going back down. And I like how the Flyers have done this. They've been able to use the call-ups, the emergency call-ups, and be able to kind of bring guys, up and down. And we've seen it with Forrester, we've seen it with Zamula, now we see it with Ronnie Attard. I wonder if the Ristolainen injury kind of propelled that a little bit. But again, the Phantoms' magic number is 7. It could have changed. This morning there was a game between Bridgeport and Springfield, and Bridgeport ended up winning that game in overtime, so that meant both teams got points, unfortunately, and that kept the magic number at the same. If Bridgeport had won in regulation, the Phantoms' number to clinch still would have been 7, but if Springfield won in regulation, it would have been 5. So it would have been nice if that game could have changed a little bit. But let's kind of transfer over here and kind of get into the next topic, because I wanted to kind of break down some jerseys and some jersey talk, because there's obviously a lot that's kind of changed. So as you see on the screen here, and I'm a little off-centered. As you see on the screen, the Flyers are supposed to be getting new uniforms, and it's very close to the. To me, it's close to the reverse retro in a way. It's kind of bland. If I were to say so myself, I'm curious what everybody thinks about that as well. Again, so the picture on the screen, it kind of breaks down. It's similar to the 1981-82 jerseys that were pretty bland. There wasn't really much to them. So it's going to be the original shade of orange, and that's interesting because for that specific color, it looks different. Like if you were to compare it to the orange that the Flyers have now, which is a little different in the sense of it being through Adidas. So like Adidas is going to have a different type of like mock-up for these type of jerseys, and then Fanatics is going to come in the following season. So next year it will be the last year of Adidas, 2023-24, and then 2024-25 is going to start Fanatics. So if that were to be the case, the Flyers are going to be getting some new jerseys, and the color itself would be the same shade of orange, but it might look different because it's different material. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It's only going to be the home and road jerseys, and it's going to be the same set of striping and everything from 1982 to 2007. That same type of look. Again, very similar to what the Flyers wore in. For years, and it seems like they're going to be kind of going back in time and kind of switching some things up from that as well. The article, which was honestly a pretty good article, and just overall, there's obviously been a lot of, as my dog is running down the hallway barking, there's been a lot of different things that have kind of been going on with the Flyers, and Chris Maher from Sports Logos, and that he had the article up. And again, it was a good article. It kind of showcased a lot of different things. It did say no third jersey. I heard differently on that. I had heard back in like November, December, that the same company that was going to be making these jerseys, and kind of, because I knew about this. I knew that this was going to be coming, and I heard about this around Christmas time, and it's the same company that designed the reverse retro, the Cooperalls, that designed the pants for that jersey. They had a meeting with the Flyers around that same time, and it's similar to this. Paul, what's up, brother? Thanks for tuning in. Mr. Twister. Yeah, dude, I agree. I mean, I liked them. I don't at the same time. I would have liked to seen maybe a different design, but I also really do like that they're going back in time, because everybody knows how I am with the Flyers and their history. I'm like huge about that stuff. So again, the article did say no third jersey, and I had heard that they're going to keep it and it's going to be black, but it's going to be a different design. So we'll see about that. I'm not too sure, how much is going to change with that, especially too because, they've had the black jersey for a bit now, but also at the same time, to me, I hate the black jersey. I'm being honest. I've probably said it before. I can't stand it. It's to me, it's boring. There isn't much to it. It's just, It just kind of is what it is. Ryan, what's up, brother? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I mean, and same thing with Fanatics too. I think that's, I never really got a chance to talk about that, and I don't have anything in my notes. I'll kind of just go off the top of my head. Fanatics, I'm curious for those who are in the chat. Let me know what you think about Fanatics, because Fanatics is I think part of the problem with Fanatics is, like, every jersey I get is either the Adidas. It was either Adidas or from like DH Gate from China. Like, I try not to spend a lot of money on jerseys. The only jerseys that I have that are Adidas are the 2 reverse retros, which is the Carter Hart one that's behind me, that's on my other side right here. My 2023, I have a blank reverse retro from this season, and I have the Cooperalls as well. And the only other jersey that I have that is Adidas is a Hockey Fights Cancer jersey. Kylo Green, I'm talking about just the Flyers' current black jersey now. I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, they're the only ones that I really don't like. But again, like Fanatics, like Mr. Twister, that's kind of where I'm getting at. It looks like a sticker. It looks like it's very clearly screen printed. I don't like the really thick Fanatics logo at the bottom of it. Like the Adidas ones, they're clean, they're nice material. I thought the original reverse retro, the first round of them, the first season of them, I guess. I thought the stitching was a lot better on those, especially the Adidas ones. The stitching that I have on this one is like on the white parts of the jersey, there's black stitching. And on the black parts of the stitching, there's white, or of the jersey, there's white stitching too. So it's kind of like flip-flopped. It's weird. I don't know why they did it that way. And you can even see it on like the team used ones. Again, I like that they're going back in time. I do like the 1981-82 jerseys. The Flyers also wore the Cooperalls from around that time too. So I guess it makes sense that the same kind of company would be making those. And again, I know the black jersey now was the 2017 Stadium Series jersey when the Flyers played the Penguins at Heinz Field, but it's just, I don't know. To me, that jersey's very, very boring. I wish there was some more striping on it. I'm curious what people think about this, because I've thought about this for a couple of years now. I would absolutely love a specific Flyers jersey that had orange gloves. Whether it was a white jersey, a black jersey, I think it would probably look better with white. If you flipped the colors and had, the orange at the top, kind of like our road jersey, like what they're saying for these. If we had orange gloves with them, I would absolutely love that. I've said it for a while. I actually joked about it with Derek Settlemeyer, Nasty, who he obviously, Nasty was the equipment manager for a long time, and I said it to him, and I was like, what do you think? He's like, are you nuts? And I was like, I mean, I don't know, man. So, that's type of the thing. That's the stuff that I like. I like the crazy jerseys, the really weird ones. Like, I remember when I was trying to get some information on our reverse retro from this year, like, I was asking people, and they were like, it's something from 06-07, and I'm like, oh god, they're going with the silver. And that was just, I don't like that jersey. I do have it. It's okay. I'm not a huge fan of it. If it was like a special occasion thing, I'd be like, all right, but I just like the Flyers logo as it is, because that is one thing that the article did say as well, is that the Flyers logo is staying the same, and they're not changing anything about that. So I do like that. Philly Season says, the only reason I prefer the Fanatics breakaway jerseys is because the logo doesn't feel like a huge weight when you're wearing it. That is true. The one thing with Adidas is it does kind of feel heavy. And it, like, if you get a crease in it, or if it bends, it's really, like, it's weird. I don't really know how to describe it, but it just feels weird. I don't know. I mean, I like again, I like the stitching. I like the collar as well. Like, that doesn't really bother me. It's not like itchy or anything. I used to really get, like, when I was a kid, the Reebok ones, I always used to get itchy, like, around my neck from the Reebok ones. I'm not sure why. But I never really had that many Reebok ones. A lot of them were fake, so that's probably why. But yeah, I mean, I just think, for a rebuild and for a new team and for a new look to what the Flyers are going to be, I would, I'm fine with, a switch of jerseys, because again, you have so many different things, right? And especially too, because everything's changing. I mean, our team's different. You know, a lot of different guys are gone, and some are still going to be gone. You know, who knows about Provorov, right? Hayes, I've talked about that so many different times. You know, you still don't have Giroux, no Jake, no Gostisbehere, no Simmons, none of that. Everything's changing. So many different people are moving and in and out, and there's already been a little bit of a change of house. So let's switch it over to the next topic here, because I wanted to kind of talk about some of the younger players, and you know, a lot of the young guys, and also really just the month of March, because you know the Flyers up until I know I'm switching cameras and everything, but I'm changing different things. Again, just another update for some more people coming in. I'm doing a watch party here on YouTube tonight for the Flyers Blues game. Kind of have it down there at the bottom, as you see on the screen. So come tune in. Again, Riley Cote joining me here in about 15 minutes. But the Flyers rebuild is seeing results, and the young kids are playing well and being a huge part of that. Let's kind of break down some numbers. So in March, the Flyers went 6-4-3. That's their second best month of the season. And I thought there were a lot of good things too. And again, if anybody wants to call in, be my guest, 267-939-1216. Talk about it, you know, obviously would be good to, you know, keep the conversation on the young guys too. But if anybody has a question, comment, anything, hit the phone line. Again, 6-4-3 in March. Pretty good month. 41 goals for, 41 goals against, not bad. We're shut out, I think, once or twice. Carter Hart did have a shutout as well. Tippett had a hat trick versus Buffalo. Frost had 2 goals versus Montreal and Buffalo. So some pretty, you know, good high scoring games for some of the younger guys. Again, Carter Hart with a shutout against the Red Wings. A couple good games for Felix Sandstrom. Samuel Ersson was pretty good for a good chunk of it as well. And just for the 4 guys on the string here, I have Cates, Frost, Tippett, and York. And I'll kind of go through some stats that I kind of wrote down for all of those guys, especially for Tippett. So I kind of want to talk about Tippett because, and again, you know, I don't want to, you know, segment out like, or kind of just like not talk about guys like Forrester, right? Guys like Zamula, like, you know, guys like that. But I will say those guys did play well too. And it's not just, you know, the problem with it is it's such small stints, right? And I'm probably in a couple weeks I could add, you know, Ronnie Adder to the list depending on how many games he plays. Same thing with Sam Ersson. You could add him. Obviously, at the end of the season, I'll break down everybody at one time, and we'll kind of just go through all of it. But you know, for most of this year, and the reason I focused on a lot of these 4 guys here is because when you look at these 4 guys, and overall, you know, you see the legit progress that these guys are showing, especially guys like Frost. So all of these numbers for these 4 players is from March 14th. That was against the Vegas Golden Knights. Since then, Morgan Frost has 6 goals, 6 assists. Owen Tippett has 5 goals and 3 assists. Noah Cates has 2 goals and 6 assists. And Cam York has a goal and 4 assists. And that's only for, you know, a 10 to 15 game span. You know, that's pretty good. And especially, too, because for Frost, example, 2 2-goal games, like I mentioned, Montreal and Buffalo. You know, he's got 12 points, obviously, in that span. He's got 22 shots on goal in 10 games. Tippett has, again, 5 goals, 3 assists, like I mentioned. In those 10 games, has 33 shots. And I do have another thing on Tippett here as well. I tweeted this out earlier. Tippett has 59 shots on goal in the last 15 games, from March 1st up until today, going on from... you know, the game tonight against St. Louis. His highest in a game this season was 9 versus Tampa Bay on March 7th, had 8 versus Pittsburgh twice, March 11th in a 5-1 loss, and then on Sunday in a 4-2 loss against Pittsburgh on the 2nd. The goals really aren't there for how many shots, and that's not like a knock on Tippett. Like, he's been incredible, right? But you know, he only has 6 for that span, and 1 was an empty netter. So unfortunately, you know, he's getting robbed by some of these goalies. Like Casey DeSmith had some really good saves on him. as well in both of those games. So again, really good showing for Tippett, and just the overall season. These guys have played well. Noah Cates is another one. He's been scoring more, again, 8 points, but he's +8 on the season. +8 for a team where a lot of their star guys. I mean, Travis Konecny's -13. Like, you look at a lot of the guys, and especially last year, like Keith Yandle being -47. Like, the last couple of years, plus minus is a stat that you look at and you're like, oh God, like, eesh. But now when you see some, like, when you look at, I think for some guys, like, Sanheim last year was like +7 or 6 or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Sanheim had a really good showing. And, when you look at Sanheim last year and you're like, oh, okay, he had a pretty decent year, but, plus minus. I don't know, not everybody looks at plus minus the same way because plus minus is changed. Like, if you hop on the ice and you're, say it's a far change in the second period and you're, like, at the red line and you get scored on, you get a minus for that. Like, you're not even involved in the play. So there's that too. But when you see a +8 for a guy like Noah Cates, who has shut down McDavid for, a couple times this year, he did it against Sidney Crosby the other night. He had a really good season defensively, and he's turning into a young Couturier. I've said that before. I made the video on it. Jamie Bascal brought it up last week. Like, there's a lot of good things that have been coming out of Noah Cates, and just in general, you have a player who is so responsible defensively that the offense is probably going to come, right? You're probably going to see more of that. And again, 2 goals, 6 assists. He's played net front on the power play, all of that stuff. And he's just been able to score. And for Cam York, like I mentioned, since March 14th, does a goal and 4 assists. He's only played 48 games. But for York, when York came up, I was like, I honestly, I should start in the beginning of the year when he was kind of sent down. When York was sent down, I said to myself, I'm like, all right, let's see what happens here, because this is clearly like a thing with Torts, and he's trying to get the most out of him. And when that was happening, I was like, okay, well, let's kind of see. I didn't think he had the best camp. He didn't have a great showing in the preseason, but Bradshaw and Torts and everybody in the staff, they've done an incredible job with York. Like, he's genuinely looked like to me, he's been the team's best defenseman. And Ristolainen's behind him. Like, those two guys have been good. I think Prorov's had a good year too. I don't really think that many Flyers have had, bad seasons, especially for the defense. The offense is one thing, but defensively, not too many have had bad seasons. I think Seawor's had a good year. D'Angelo, I think, some rough patches here and there, but overall a solid season for Tony, I think. I know everybody talks about his defense too, and I think it can still get worked out. We'll see. But again, as for York, he's +5, and if I were to criticize really any of these guys, like Frost, I'd like to see Frost, get his shot off more. It would be nice, I think for Tippett, it would be nice if they're, just consistency, right? I think for him, Cates, I'd like to see more offense out of Cates too, but also like when you look at the offense with this team too, you have to think to yourself, and the guys that are at least putting up some points, like, the Flyers don't score much. They've been scoring more recently, and again, they had 41 goals in the month of March. I think for some of these guys, like Cates, I'd like to see more offense out of. Cam York, probably. I'd like to see York kind of jump into the rush more. As for Philly season, I need a comment here. He said, bro, honestly, with the position we're in with Sanheim, I'd take a 5th-round pick 5 years from now just to guarantee that massive extension's off the books. See, that's the thing. Like, with Sanheim, I don't think the money is bad on the deal. It's just, it's insanely long in term is the problem. Like, every year that Sanheim got a contract extension, he got the same money. He got a two $2 million to $2.5 million in a raise. So, there's that too. It's like, there's more that you can kind of give with him. And also at the same time, again, it's consistency. I think that's the biggest thing really with a lot of the guys. But like Frost, he's had a really good showing these past couple of games. He's been shooting. It's been going in, frankly, one thing. As for Tippett, he's had a lot of shots on goal. Again, 59 in the last 15 games, like I've talked about. It's insane. And it just makes you think, too, like, if the power play could at least get somewhat better at some point, like, they'd be scoring a lot more. And the Flyers have had some power plays where they've been getting some more chances. Right, Paul, exactly. And that's the problem. I mean, the term. And I think Chuck he didn't wait to see what was happening with Torts. And I don't think him and Sanheim see eye to eye. They've kind of talked about that. Raz Gaming asked, score prediction for tonight. I have a feeling I think the Flyers are going to win tonight. And I think the only reason I'm saying that is because they're 2-0 on nights that we've done the show so far. And they have games on Tuesday throughout the end of the season as we're doing the show. So it would be nice if they could finish 4-0 because not this week, but the following week, that's the last week of the season. And we'll kind of obviously break all of it down on that following Tuesday. But, yeah, I'm going to say the Flyers win tonight. Why not? I mean, you're playing St. Louis, who you beat before. You actually killed them early in the year. You beat them 5-1, scored a lot of goals. Sanheim had a goal that night. Noah Cates chipped in. Wade Allison got the party started. I mean, there was a lot of different things that kind of happened early on, especially, too, because that was around the time where the Flyers were kind of like not too bad, but they were still kind of good in a way. It was before the 10-game losing streak at the beginning of the season, which I think people kind of forget that we had. Also beat St. Louis last year in St. Louis 5-2. Hayden Hodgson made his debut and scored. Yeah, and that was probably the best game Hayden Hodgson played as a Flyer because he played the home opener this year, and he looked god-awful in that game and never played since. And that's not a knock at him. It's just his game he just did not have a good game. Yeah, Hockey 2891. Realistically, I'm hoping we get more at the draft. If lucky, Will Smith would be nice. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for the draft, again, and this segment kind of ties into the draft too. Again, we got Riley Cote coming up in a couple minutes before I butcher that. I think for the draft, really, realistically, wherever the Flyers kind of fall, again, they're still in 26th at the moment. Still in 26th at the moment. Again, sorry, I had to answer text. 26th at the moment. It's probably gonna go up and down. I don't know. It depends on if Montreal wins, and depending if the Coyotes win as well, and if the Flyers obviously lose. There's definitely some games on this Flyers schedule that you definitely could pencil in as losses. Just looking at the schedule, you have Dallas on Thursday. I don't think the Flyers are going to be winning that one. You have the Islanders, Boston on Sunday. That's probably a loss. And then you have Columbus and Chicago to end the season. So those definitely can be wins, depending on if the Flyers kind of, win here and whatnot. So we'll have to see, what kind of happens here coming up, because a lot has changed because, the Flyers have kind of gone up. They've been scoring more, so that's kind of been changing with everything. But really, it's only like a 1%, 1.5%, 2% difference. I don't know it's going to change much. Philly season said, I still think it's crucial to get another high pick this year. I 100% agree. I said that the other day off the air. I was just thinking about it. And I think that's going to happen. I think if you trade Provorov and Hayes at the draft, because they talked about the draft, that seems like it's going to be happening. Again, we got Riley Cote coming in here in 40 seconds. If that were to be the case, first of all, for Ivan Provorov, you 100% can get a first-round pick for this year. For Kevin Hayes, you could certainly get a second, because they definitely do need to get a second-round pick for this year. You don't have one for next year either. So we'll see what happens. Obviously there's a lot of different things that are going to be kind of changing, especially too because, kind of like I said, everything's and it's quick. I mean, it's May 8th. It's like a little less than a month away. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, because there's so many different things that are kind of been changing with it, and if the Flyers lose more games, it's better. But at the same time, it's like, when do you kind of look at the wins versus the overall type of process? But we got Riley Cote joining right now. Trying to switch this over. There we go. Hey, Riles.
Hey, what's up, Chris?
How are you?
Good. How you making out?
Good. Thanks for doing this.
No problem.
Yeah. So the last segment that I just did was all young guys, and I was talking about more of the recent stretch that the Flyers have kind of been on here. They've actually been winning some games, and I talked about more the month of March, and some of the guys that I kind of broke down were Frost, Tippett, Cates, and York. Out of those guys, Riley, and for you, obviously, you guys have been doing the podcast and everything, which is great. Who are some of those guys, who of those guys, I guess I should say, has impressed you the most for this season so far?
They all have their shining moments, but I like Tippett. I mean, I like them coming into this thing. He is a first rounder, so obviously he should be able to play. But I see this guy scoring more goals. I mean, he obviously, I don't know how many he's got right now, 25 or so. But he's he can score the goal. He can score goals. I mean, and there's no question. He can skate. He's big. I mean, I really like him. Frost, obviously, this last stretch, he's a shifty guy, different type of player. Mm-hmm. But like a guy like Tippett, I mean, again, if this guy can score you 40, that's a huge huge step in the right direction. And Noah Cates too. I mean, I like these guys. It's just interesting psychology towards the end of the season, especially when you're not in playoffs, right? You're playing for your life. There's so much urgency, so you can see the urgency in these guys because they're playing for a spot next year. There's no question. I mean, obviously, a guy like Owen Tippett, these guys got the spots already, but like these guys are at our ice time, so right. Like you kind of play a different brand when you have nothing to lose. As a team. Maybe you're trying things that you normally wouldn't try, a little more confidence, whatever that ends up being, because it's kind of like being behind in a game, right? It's always like a 2-goal lead. It's the worst lead in hockey because you kind of play a different way, and you're not carrying as much. You're not gripping the stick as tight, or whatever that looks like. But
right.
I don't know. But I think there's another dimension to all these guys' games. I think there's another dimension to Tippett's game. I was at the game where he scored the hat trick. Like you could see right from the start, this guy was on fire and he was going to score. He could have scored 6 or 7 goals that game, but it shows you the potential he has. And I'd like to see where it goes for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially too, because, obviously the team right now, they're not scoring as much. And scoring has been down for most of the year. And if the power play, and I was just mentioning this too, if the power play could get somewhat better and not be, dead last in the league, it's going to be 2 years in a row that the power play is going to be dead last.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
That's not good.
Especially when you have enough talent on the power play, just young guys, outside and just the whole team in general, minusing young guys and everything, there's enough, talent on the power play and just the team to where you could definitely score more on the power play. But that's a different topic for a different day.
Yeah.
And, I really like what you said about that because I think there's definitely something that you can find in a young player and not even really just young player, but any player in general when you're out of it, like you're saying. And for you, like you obviously coached in Lehigh Valley for 7 years. How important is it for those guys as well, like the guys down in the Phantoms, to at least get into the playoffs? because Torts has talked about it before. Obviously, he coached, and how important it is for just development, right? I believe with the Phantoms, I don't think you guys made the playoffs outside of the one season. But just overall, like, how important is that just for growing your game and not even just like your game hockey wise, but just mentally, like knowing like, hey, like we can do this type thing.
Yeah, I think it teaches winning, right? I mean, it teaches you the grind. It teaches you how much work it takes to be a pro hockey player. You know what I mean? It's no one likes to be the team that doesn't make playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if they're going that extra mile, getting that first round, second round, you're learning how to win. You're creating a culture. You're understanding what that feels like.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that goes a long way. Not to mention you're getting more reps, right? More practice. I mean,
Right.
you're practicing less, but you're playing more games.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing in critical situations. Games are on the line. You're pressure situations. Experience, right? I mean, there's nothing quite like it. You gotta get the reps in. You gotta get the experience in. So surely adding an extra minimum of 4 games, plus into your season games wise is great for personal development, player development. So, but as a collective, as a team, right? You're learning how to win. You know, teams want winners. Like, you know, generally when you see, you know, Stanley Cup championships or Calder Cup championships or East Coast League championships, like the guys that win will sign contracts. You know what I mean? They'll find a place because teams want winners. They want guys that have experience with winning and leadership and all that good stuff. So yeah, to me, it's great for the young guys to play in postseason, get the reps in, get the feel of that playoff atmosphere. So when they do, you know, hopefully find their way to the Flyers, whatever organization they land up in, that, you know, when they do get the shot to play in an NHL playoff game, they've already been there. They felt that before, that energy. They know what's up. So.
Right.
At least that's my perspective.
Right, for sure. I mean, and like for you, I feel like you could probably answer this better, right? Because you were 23 when you won with the Phantoms.
Yes, 2004, 2005.
Yeah. So I mean, and just for you, like, and obviously that can kind of you know, change that too, and kind of like what you were saying, you can get, you know, more games out of it. Just kind of going off on the team a little bit, and really for you guys and the podcast. The episode with Nick Delorier, I think I've watched that like 8 times.
Oh yeah.
Because well, one, I love Delorier, and I think that's one of my. He's one of the signings that I was livid when they did it, because I'm like, well, they didn't get Goudreau, and then I thought about it. I said that's a really smart signing. I had to separate the Phantom a little bit.
Right.
But again, you know, he's talked about a lot, and he talked about it a lot on your guys' show, just about being a pro, and obviously you were in that type of role too, and you know, played that same style. How important is that to kind of learn as, you know, as a younger player, how to be a pro and just kind of manage your game in that sense?
I think it's one of the most important things, because everything gets better when you understand, you know, what a pro means, what it is. Once you start living it, like your game gets better, your mindset gets better, your performance gets better. You know, there's a lot of things that go into being a pro, right? I mean, it's the way you carry yourself. It's being able to manage your emotions. It's, you know, knowing your body, putting in the effort, but also understanding the amount of rest and regeneration that we need. You know, just understanding the way the machine operates. There's a lot that goes into it, but like the sooner you can understand this and say become a pro. I mean, I've coached guys that I would say are absolute pros that, you know, never played an NHL game.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, this guy's a pro. You know, again, everything, his attitude, the way he carries himself, the amount of work, again, like all this stuff. There's a lot of different variables there, but yeah, I think it's super important, because those guys generally last longer. They have longer careers. They stay healthier because they understand the way it works. And you know, nothing's guaranteed. Injuries are definitely sometimes inevitable, but, you know, taking care of the body, like a guy like Jim Dowd. You know, it was my first year with the Flyers. He was my centerman. He was an absolute pro. He's 40 years old, and he was still grinding, still the first guy up in the weight room, stretching out, rolling out. And he had a back injury like 9 years before, which they told him they would never play again, and he didn't accept that, and he just and he's a fourth line guy every team he's been on. You know, there was a role for this guy because he was just able to stay durable, he stay healthy,
right,
and be accepting of that role. You know, absolute pro. And I learned a lot from Jim Dowd, and most guys don't know who he is. And 20 years in the NHL, being a fourth line centerman, and there's several of these guys, Blair Betts, through the, I'm just thinking of it. I could name 1,000 of them, but like guys that maybe had more like limited roles, but like were absolute pros, and that's why they held on to these jobs for so long. So yeah, I mean, it definitely is an important ingredient. And you hope that guys can mature and become that sooner or later, because again, team performance improves as well as individual performance, obviously.
Right, exactly. For next season, the Flyers have they've already Torts has already came out and said no captain. What are you what are your overall thoughts on that? I know you guys have talked about it, but for me, I think it's a good thing, but also at the same time, it doesn't really worry me, because it's like for this year, I think it's like another one of them years you have to kind of scratch off, because you didn't have Atkinson, you didn't have Couturier. That's still, those two guys are definitely still candidates for it. The other thing is it also gives more time for younger guys, like say Noah Cates, who I actually brought up last week on the show, that or it was brought up by the other guest I had, Jamie Bascal, that he could be potentially a captain too. Just overall though, what are your thoughts on not having a captain next year? And if you were to pick one, I guess for right now, a really early pick, who would it be?
Well, I'm not too sure on the strategy of what he's trying to accomplish with it. And to talk about this far out from the season, to me it's like a non-issue either way, but it almost becomes more of an issue because of the way it's handled. I mean, I'm assuming some media outlet asked him about it. I think it's almost created more unnecessary chatter and drama around it, because it's like, it's like, to me, it's like that should have been something that would have been like more impactful if he did that on training camp. All right, well now it's like, okay, we're not having a captain. Like, to me, it's like way more of like a message sender,
or something like exit day.
Yeah, exit day, or some meaningful way to communicate that. I see both sides of it. I mean, I see what he's trying to do with it. Is it really a statement? Is there really nobody in there that can rock a C?
Well, that's kind of my thing too. Is like, is there really nobody right now you could just place one on and then change it if it's, what I mean? If they were to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the shelf life of a coach in NHL right now is what, 3 years? I mean, 4 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was only
is he around for the rebuild?
Yeah,
he's 1 year down the tube. So you're going to play a whole other season without a captain. And it's like, I mean, God knows that they shit the bed again another year, which I don't see happening. It's like,
right.
I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter how long you last, but like, I'm not sure if this is an ego flex or if this is like a legitimate, actual, real, tangible coaching strategy. I struggle with this because I've seen a lot of coaches, played for them, work with them, and there's a lot of like these interesting, weird mind games that guys do that are there to to get people to talk about it. Maybe obviously the media to talk about it.
Right.
But I'm not sure they're actually at the end of the day any bit of a needle mover as far as like actually creating culture and leadership in the room. It's like,
right.
I don't know. So I mean, there's definitely guys in the locker room that can rock a C. There's no question.
Well, I mean, especially too because Lawton has the A, so he's certainly a guy that you could pick.
Yeah. But I just think it was the way it was done, and this far out, it's such like a meaningless. It's just like a meaningless thing that like people like forget about, and it's just like, all right, we just have a C again. Like,
Yeah.
Versus, I think there could have been a more powerful way to deliver it, and why. But and timing wise too. But what do I know? I mean, this is my perspective. I see both sides, strategy, both sides, right? I mean, like, but I think it's more the timing and how it played out. I question the authenticity of that strategy, I guess.
Right. And especially too because just the overall makeup of it is, if he were to handle that on exit day, then that would be one of the main summer topics. Is who's a potential captain for next year, and then you go into camp, and again, like there's so many different variables like we talked about. My next question's a little.
Can I cut you off quickly just to finish that up? Like,
yeah.
To me, it would have been so much more powerful had he said, "We're that's up for grabs. We're going to earn it we're still earning and it's going to be up for grabs in like training camp or something like that.
Yeah.
And then at the time, if no one earned it or whatever, then you can make that statement. But it's like, to me, there was more of like a, like there's something there to grab. Like, who wants it? Like, dangling the seat. It's like, who the fuck wants this thing? And to me, it was just like, I don't know. It was somewhat misplayed, but nonetheless, that's my opinion. I just wanted to finish on that because I'm thinking like you could have dangled the carrot there for someone to really step up versus like, oh, it's a long shot. No one's rocking the seat now for the next year, so it's not even like
because then like publicly it makes everyone else think like the people that don't have an understanding, or maybe the people that just don't get it. The like locker room psyche, I guess. It makes everybody think that we don't have any leaders.
Well, exactly.
And
what kind of faith is it showing in the team?
Right, exactly. But again, my next question is for you, like, if you were still coaching right now, and obviously there's a lot of offense, in the NHL, and like we see it all the time. Like young kids are doing the Michigan and Bedard and Trevor Zegers and all these other guys. They're doing all these different things that it just gets kids involved. And all of that stuff, and just overall, like there's just so much offense, and it's really the only way that kids today really know how to play. For you, if you were still coaching right now, how would you kind of balance that? Because there's like, to me, like if you were to balance like and say you had a kid that was younger and only really knew how to play offense, how would you kind of balance like their skill and the way that they've played the game their whole life versus like the way that they have to play to make the NHL type thing?
Yeah, I talk about this quite often with people asking about like this type of thing. Like the reality is like I don't know one coach that's teaching just offense or just defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always a hybrid, right? And there's 5 guys on the ice, and everyone understands you have to score goals to win the games. You can't just play defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know a coach that certainly doesn't teach defense. I mean, the skill level of these guys is through the roof, but like you still teach defense. Like most of the video clips that you show as a coach are like, defensive structure. Like because the reality is the better defense you play, the more you're on offense, right? So if you can break up the play quicker, you're going to be turning on offense. So there's obviously some offensive strategy in playing defense, but like I think the best coaches that I've seen allow the skill guys to be skilled in respective situations, right? I'm not suggesting that like you're trying to toe drag and dangle a player at your defensive blue line,
right?
But like on entries, you're trying to make plays, like you're trying to encourage to make plays. Like if you're going to be breathing down guys' backs for making turning pucks over, trying to make a legitimate play, like you're going to handcuff these guys and take away their confidence. So you have to encourage this. You have to improve and increase their confidence in it.
Right.
But there's like a green zone and a red zone. Like there's certain places that every hockey player, every coach knows you can't make, silly offensive plays because sometimes the play is just getting the puck out.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you turn the puck over far blue line, you can you still have 3/4 of the ice to go back and defend. Like
right.
I would highly encourage and promote their creativity.
Yeah.
Within boundaries. But yeah, I mean, like, when I was still coaching, every team does it. Like your first defenseman to jump up in the play. You need your defenseman up in the play. Like you have to have a 4-man attack.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, it was like, play conservative, 2 guys to stay back. I mean, sometimes you see 5 guys up in the play. I mean, it's like, like the second defenseman is like up there too. Like,
yeah.
But like, that type of stuff. And then again, like, like just this face-off plays. Like, I'm a really big believer in face-off plays, no matter what zone. Like having guys ready, try and spring some offense off the face-off.
Yeah.
If you have
the Flyers had the set play the other night and scored.
Exactly. Always have something. It doesn't always work out. Most of the time it doesn't. But like, always guys talking, little face-off play. But I'm also talking about like D-zone face-off play. Okay, we win the draw. If you have a fast guy that can really pressure the offensive defenseman, maybe it's a flip play of putting a guy into a puck race, putting him into an offensive situation versus a clean pass.
Right.
But it's like it's something where it puts pressure on on their team. It puts an offensive fast guy in a position to maybe create something out of nothing. I don't know. Like those are just little things, but certainly I would like highly highly promote their creativity and their ability to score goals and be creative, again, within boundaries. You don't want guys, hot dogging it in the wrong areas of the ice, because that kills a team. But hard defensively in the D zone, and then let's go. Like let's get up and be creative here. You know?
For sure. I mean, and especially too, like one guy that I look at with the Flyers now with that is Frost, because Torts has said before, if you're gonna make plays, at the blue line, get back and try to disrupt it. And I said to myself, I'm like, okay, that's fine, but that's not always going to go that way if you were to turn the puck over and then get back and make a play. But the last game against Pittsburgh, he had the turnover at the blue line. It was early in the second period, and the TV broadcast actually highlighted a little bit. They talked about it. And it was a play that Frost made where he tried to do a between the legs pass to the blue line. Well, he got back and broke up the pass from Letang into the slot, and then realized there was more ice to be had, and then went up on a 2-on-1, and he passed it to Farabee, he shot it wide, and it was one of the better chances early in the period, and that's kind of what I agree. I think, there are players that you can kind of, the one thing I don't love about the Flyers right now with the overall offense is some of the players that we have more talent than they're really being able to use, because the Flyers are playing such north-south hockey, because that's what Torts wants. And the guy that comes to my mind like right away is Wade Allison, because I would love to see Allison in the bumper on the power play, because he can shoot, and they haven't used it. And he's another guy where basically his entire game has gone from, make a couple plays. Like when Allison was up here before he got injured again, which unfortunately I have to continue to talk about the injuries with him, but he's a guy that he would have so much speed, like flying off the rush, and he wouldn't always have to dump it in. There'd be a little more east-west plays. Everything now has been north-south, dump it in, get off, finish your check type thing. And I'm like, I think there's more to be had, because at the same time, like, you have to balance, I feel like, too, us not scoring, but also, not limit as much of the offensive players that we have, because at the same time, again, like, we're not scoring, you know what I mean? So, like, I kind of feel like that there can be a balance of kind of letting, some more plays kind of happen at the same time, and take more risks, because especially now, right, for the Flyers with the last couple of games left, because they have nothing to lose. They're already out.
Right. Well, what I will say to that is, like, I don't think Torts is telling Wade Allison not to make plays.
Right,
right. I think it's probably a confidence issue, and based on his current role right now. Because at the end of the day, like, if you're a good hockey player and you have ice and space to make a play, you're not going to chip the puck in and go get it. You're going to make the play, right? It doesn't matter what line you're on. Like, I don't know of a coach that would ever tell a guy to never, ever try and make a play. I think it's risk versus reward. The best players in the world, succeed on their plays like 90% of the time, right? Or whatever the number is. It's a high percentage of execution. A guy like myself, my execution was like 1%. So, like, I had zero confidence with the puck. So I was just like, I know my limitations. I would probably just put the puck in the corner and try and run someone over, but I didn't have the coach telling me that, because if I actually had my head up and had some space to make a play, I would actually probably try.
Right.
But however, a lot of times they're really squeezed out plays and you just put the puck in. But like, obviously Wade Allison is not me, and he's got way more skill. But I guess, when guys go through injuries and try to get comfortable and find their groove and get back into where they want, you keep the game simpler, because it's predictable. You know where the puck's going. Your line mate generally knows the puck's going. But I think, like, any player that has space to make a play, they're going to make a play.
Right.
I don't know, but I think it's always how you make up for the mistake. Like, this is it, right? This is what I teach my kids around making messes around the house. It's like, it's okay to make a mess. It's okay to make a mistake.
You have to clean it up.
You just got to clean it up. You got to respond. Get back, hustle back, and do your best. That's all we can ask for, because it's a game of mistake. It's a game of risk. Shit hits the fan and things happen.
Right.
Life is messy. You're gonna make a mess. There's no sense of getting mad about it.
Right.
You just, like, clean the goddamn thing up and move on. Like, that's it. Like, you just that's it. I mean, it seems pretty simple, but there has to be some sort of calculated risk and boundaries. But I mean, I would think that Wade's kind of had a tough go being banged up and stuff. So maybe it's just getting the legs going, get on the forecheck, get a hit. He's a physical guy. He's one of the few guys that that actually run guys over.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but I don't think Torts is telling him not to make plays. I don't think I've ever seen a coach legitimately tell a guy if you tell a guy to never make a play, he's never going to make a play, and that'll be it.
Yeah. No, for sure. Riley, dude, this has been great. Thanks so much. Best of luck with everything. And then, again, you guys are kicking ass over there, and I enjoy every episode. So thanks again for doing this, and we'll talk soon.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Chris.
All right. Talk to you, man.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
There he is, Riley Cote. That was great. Riles is awesome, gives a lot of good insight. I only went through like 5 of the questions I had, but got a couple minutes left. Again, Flyers taking on the Blues tonight. Let me kind of switch back over here. I do apologize. There was a lot of stuff in the chat, and I didn't want to kind of interfere. I see a lot of talk about picks. I would not trade Konechny for. I'm not trading Konechny. I'm not doing it. So, Flyers taking on the Blues. 29, 34, and 13 on the Flyers. Blues are 35, 35, and 7. In their last 10 games, Flyers are 5, 3, and 2. St. Louis is 6, 2, and 2. Dad's calling in. Hey, Dad, you're on.
Yo, what's up, bud? Rob was awesome.
Yeah, he was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we enjoy talking with. Well, when I see him.
Yeah.
Quick question. Mm-hmm. Going off of what he said with no C next year.
Yeah.
Now you know how I feel, what I think.
Mm-hmm.
But he's 100% correct. Why did they do that?
Well, he had a really good answer on that. And I think that's something different too. And I don't remember if anybody in the media had asked it or Torts had said it, or it might have just got caught up in conversation. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check that. But yeah, he had a good point on that, because again, like what he was saying, it creates conversation, and it's definitely, and kind of like what I said too. There's definitely somebody in there that could wear a letter. I mean, it's not like they don't have leaders,
He's the only guy that's wearing a letter this year.
Right, exactly.
For next year.
Exactly.
Coots, I think, and listen, it's not that I don't like Coots. I don't think that Coots deserves it, but I think that him being out the year and, how, let's just say, for argument's sake, and I mean, look, it could happen a lot too. You're a month into the season and Coots gets injured. I mean, it could happen with anybody. It can happen with anybody. I get that. But
my thing is just because you're injured doesn't mean you can't be a leader, or you're not suited to be a leader. If you're not there, yeah, it's obviously a huge blow, but it also, at the same time, it doesn't take anything away from what Sean Couturier is. I mean, he's still Sean Couturier at the end of the day. But again, I mean, but again, it is a fair point, because you don't want to name somebody your captain and then worry if they're going to be healthy or not. Same thing with Cam Atkinson, if that were to be the case, because Atkinson wore the A last year and all of that stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, you want a guy who's going to be out there on the ice. You need you know what I mean? You have your generals that that command from the the sidelines and everything, but you got your sergeants down there in the battle.
That's Lawton's nickname, Sergeant. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll let you go, because I know you're running close to.
Yeah. No, all good. All
right, man.
All right, Dad.
Yo, everybody, tune in. I'm going to be on the watch party. Woo!
All right. I'll talk to you. All right, see ya.
Peace.
Bye. God. Oh, he makes me laugh every time he calls. Again, Flyers Blues tonight. Players to watch. Last 5 games. Frost with 6 points, has 4 goals. Farabee has 3 assists. Provorov +4 for the Blues. Falk has 7 points. Kyrou with 5 goals. Shen 6 assists. Falk +5 for St. Louis. Urson in net for the Flyers. No Ristolainen. Ronnie Attard is in. Urson, 11 games played, 6 wins, 2 losses, 3.07 goals against average, and an 8.99 save percentage. The 7-0 game against New Jersey really kind of killed Urson's numbers, unfortunately. And he's come into a couple games, too, where the Flyers have kind of gotten ousted, and it hasn't really helped his numbers either. But he has had a really good season. Bennington for St. Louis, 25, 25, and 6, 3.39 goals against average, 8.91 save percentage, 2 shutouts. He's charged like so many different people to try to fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Konechny gets in his kitchen tonight. It would be nice. That rhymed a little bit. I didn't want that to. Flyers power play is 32nd in the league. Penalty kill, 25th. Face-offs, 29th. 26th in goals for, or 28th in goals for, excuse me, and 22nd in goals against. The Blues are 22nd power play, 29th PK, 21st face-off percentage, 15th in goals for, 28th in goals against. So we'll see. I do think the Flyers are going to win tonight, but I did want to do the last thing here for the show as we're running a little over. The giveaway. We did the giveaway for the signed poster from the Flyers Wives Carnival signed by Konechny, Delorier, and Tony D'Angelo. And I'm going to be doing the giveaway winner right now. It's a little weird. This is my entire setup. So we're just going to... Got everybody's names in here. This is all from Twitter. We had like 15 people. And whoever wins, I'll clip this and I'll DM them. So let's... Here we go. This is the giveaway winner for the signed poster. Let's see who it is. Drum roll. And it is Irish Shiobin 98. So I will DM you. And thanks everybody for participating. Congratulations to Irish Shiobin 98 for winning the signed poster. I'll be sending it over your way. And, thanks everybody so much for this week. Thanks again to Riley Cote. Everybody in the chat, again, don't go anywhere. Catch me back here in an hour. Flyers Blues Watch Party here on YouTube. And, thanks everybody so much for all the support, and I'll talk to you all again